John Lee's policy address tomorrow to help boost economy and improve livelihood. New railway expansion plan could also be announced. British Prime Minister apologizes for failed policies, almost all of which have been scrapped. Hello and welcome to TVB News. Chief Executive John Lee is set to deliver his first policy address tomorrow. He revealed today that there will be measures to boost the economy and improve the livelihoods of people in the city. But little was said as to whether the address will include national security-related policies. Sharon Tang reports.
Chief Executive John Lee displayed a copy of his policy address before attending the Executive Council meeting this morning. He said he chose a green cover because the color represents hope, energy and peace. John Lee added there will be policies focused on the economy, livelihood, land supplies and the city's competitiveness. Earlier, the government took out Article 23 of the Basic Law, the city's own national security legislation, from the Legislative Council agenda, meaning the legislation will not be enacted this year. The CE was asked whether he will touch on the matter in his policy address tomorrow.
I will have to request you all to have a little bit of patience because you only have to wait for one day when I will be telling you every bit of it. I do want the Article 23 proposal to cover situations which are fast developing in this complex geopolitical situation. So I would like our proposal to cover a very wide range of research into the legislations that are available for reference in connection with means and tactics of protecting national security.
Meanwhile, Lee noted there were many highlights in the work report delivered by President Xi Jinping during the 20th National Congress of the Communist Party of China on Sunday. The CE said he finds it encouraging that one country, two systems was mentioned frequently in the report.
That shows that the central authorities attach great importance to the Hong Kong and its high degree of autonomy. And so it is an action guideline for us. And then there is also discerning discussion on the implementation one country, two systems helps to promote stability here.
Lee stressed the enactment of Article 23 legislation cannot be rushed, adding more time is needed for research and consultation. Sharon Tang, TVB News.
It's understood tomorrow's policy address will also spotlight the connectivity of the northern metropolis. Sources say new transport projects will include new highways and extending the MTR's Northern Link. More details from Jackie Lin.
The previous administration has highlighted the importance of railway arteries to drive the development of the northern metropolis. It's understood Chief Executive John Lee's first policy address will continue that objective through extending the MTR's Northern Link. Currently connecting the East Rail Line and Tuen Ma Line, the link will extend southwards from Kam Sheung Road Station, which will reportedly be one of the main interchange stations for the northern new towns. The railway will pass through northeast Kwai Chung through a tunnel before reaching the Kowloon Tong terminal station. Currently, it takes 32 minutes to travel from Kam Sheung Road in Yuen Long to Kowloon Tong. The new extension can slash the commuting time to just 12 minutes. New Territories North lawmaker Gary Zhang Xinyu welcomes the move. He says it could also help ease the traffic crunch in the New Territories on the east and west sides, such as Kwai Chung. But lawmaker Michael Tian, who is a former chairman of the Kowloon Canton Railway Corporation, is worried about the plan to set Kowloon Tong as the terminus for the extended line. That's because it could lead to even heavier passenger loads for the busy interchange station. Apart from the proposed rail extension, the policy address will reportedly include plans to build new highways linking Kutong and Kwai Ching. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
The city reported 4,954 new COVID cases. That's around 400 fewer infections than yesterday. However, the percentage of imported cases has been on the rise since the implementation of the 0+3 measure. Chief Executive John Lee reiterated his stance on the city's need to maintain a steady pace with regards to relaxing COVID restrictions. Timothy Lee has more.
With the 0+3 measure having been enforced for over half a month, Chief Executive John Lee noted that arrivals at the airport have more than doubled compared to September. But the increasing number of arrivals were not a clear indication of the end of Hong Kong's COVID woes, as imported infections now make up 5% of the total number of cases, about double the earlier proportion. Severe cases and deaths also rose compared with the previous week, by 28% and 20% respectively. The transmission rate has also seen an increase. Under these conditions, the CE stressed the importance of taking a cautious approach on anti-COVID measures.
按住嗰個情況咧，
An orderly approach should be taken so that we take things step by step in resuming activities and further open up with the world. I hope we all understand. I've told you our direction and our objectives, and that is why we should all work together.
The city is still in talks with mainland authorities about the implementation of a reverse quarantine measure, which will allow residents to undergo isolation at designated facilities prior to crossing the border. Lee said both the SAR and the central government are working hard to roll out the new measure, but must first solve remaining issues such as a different standard for CT values between the two parties.
These things we are working and we're ironing out some areas where we need to adjust. But the closed-loop arrangement, of course, is one area which we have to look at realistically as to how we can satisfy.
The chief executive also commented on the dubious vaccination exemption certificates suspected to have been issued by the 7 arrested private doctors. He said the government will strongly follow up on the incident as it has damaged the city's current anti-COVID system. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
The so-called king of judicial reviews, Kwok Chuk-kin, has secured legal aid for his latest challenge against the government. Earlier, the retired civil servant was rejected legal aid in his case against the government's move to void some 20,000 vaccine exemption certificates on the grounds that he had been triple jabbed. Speaking outside the court, Kwok quoted the judge as saying his judicial review on vaccine exemption is of public interest. Meanwhile, another doctor has been charged for allegedly issuing jab exemption certificates without following guidelines. 64-year-old medic Annie Choi faces 2 counts of conspiracy to defraud. Overseas, British Prime Minister Liz Truss issued an apology for the economic turbulence that was sparked by her government's announcement of a raft of fiscal measures last month. Daniel Rao reports.
British Prime Minister Liz Truss issued the apology on Monday, admitting her government made mistakes after the announcement of economic measures in last month's mini-budget rattled financial markets.
What I'm focused on is delivering for the British public. Now, I recognise we have made mistakes. I'm sorry for those mistakes, but I've fixed the mistakes. I've appointed a new Chancellor. We have restored economic stability and fiscal discipline. And what I now want to do is go on and deliver for the public.
Truss's comments come as she faces increasing scrutiny from Parliament and the public, and as new Chancellor of the Exchequer Jeremy Hunt set about dramatically altering the policies. Hunt was appointed last Friday after Truss sacked his predecessor Kwasi Kwarteng, who spent less than 6 weeks on the job. The new Chancellor of the Exchequer said he will scrap almost all of Truss's tax cuts. Hunt also announced that a cap on energy prices designed to help households pay their bills will be reviewed in April rather than lasting 2 years. Hunt told lawmakers that the measures he announced would save £32 billion a year, but that spending cuts were also on the horizon. He is now set to deliver a fuller medium-term fiscal plan as scheduled on October 31st, alongside forecasts from the Independent Office for Budget Responsibility.
We are a country that funds our promises and pays our debts. And when that is questioned, as it has been, this government will take the difficult decisions necessary to ensure there is trust and confidence in our national finances.
The pound rose more than 1% to above $1.13 after Hunt's announcements. That saw the pound move back above where it was trading on September 22nd, the day before Quarting announced the ill-fated tax cuts. Still, speculation is rife that Liz Truss could yet be ousted as Prime Minister by her Conservative Party. This as polls currently suggest that the opposition Labour Party would win a big majority should a general election go ahead. Daniel Roell, TVB News.
Around 90 conservative Japanese lawmakers visited the controversial Yasukuni shrine today. Their visit comes a day after the Japanese Prime Minister, Fumio Kishida, donated religious offerings to the shrine, though he did not visit in person. The Tokyo shrine is seen by Chinese and Koreans as a symbol of Japanese wartime militarism because it honors war criminals who are among the 2.5 million dead. Coming up after the break, China's fifth-generation fighter jet J-20 is seen on state television. And it's back to the past as some Americans make a return to taking pictures using film cameras. Welcome back to TVB News. The Hong Kong Business Aviation Center, the city's aviation support facility for business aircrafts, is expanding in a process that will take 3 years to complete. But the airport authority hopes the government can lift restrictions to and from the Greater Bay Area.
Why can't we someday, secretaries, have a special Greater Bay Area pass? A special channel for people with that pass to go through with no double barrier checks. I think greatly enhance the integration and the development of the area as a whole.
The center is just 5 kilometers away from the departure hall at the city's airport. Last year, the center signed a $400 million expansion agreement with the airport authority to upgrade facilities. There will also be a new passenger terminal building to cope with chartered flights. China's space program is currently recruiting experts from the city as payload specialists, but Hong Kong recruits will not be spacecraft pilots. Speaking with TVB News, a Hong Kong Space Museum curator, Lawrence Lee, explains what is required to become a space pilot. Timothy Lee reports.
As the mainland continues to make huge leaps beyond the frontiers of space, residents of Hong Kong will have the chance to join its space program. The recruitment drive is for payload specialists who will accompany space missions, where they will carry out scientific research. But the position of space pilot was not included in the offer. Lawrence Lee, the curator of the Hong Kong Space Museum, said on TVB's Straight Talk program that there exists challenging criteria for being a space pilot.
They need to have experience, flight hours in flying combat planes, fighter attack aircraft, something like that. And they will recruit from People's Liberation Army. And in terms of physical, I guess it's much more, the requirement is much more higher. Say for instance, if you have a decay tooth, you can go to space. Yeah. Because if you have ill-fitted dental fillings, because when the spacecraft, the rocket is being launched, it's subject to very vigorous vibrations and G-force, and they're afraid that your fillings will break out. You can't even have scars on your skin because they're afraid that you're bleeding.
Lee said the environment in space is tough for humans, but some technologies developed to deal with the testing conditions have turned out to be useful on Earth.
I've said the space environment is very harsh. The high temperature difference, vacuum, microgravity, materials behave so differently. So actually all these space technology are developed for survival of humans in space. And when they find it is very useful and can be applied in the Earth environment, and they start being commercialized and mass production. The digital camera, we use a CCD charge couple device the imaging sensor, the CMOS, they're all space technology.
Lee added that some Hong Kong companies and universities were developing new devices and technologies to help in the exploration of space. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Footage of China's fifth-generation fighter jet J-20 has been aired on state media outlet CCTV. The latest video showcased the 20 series warplanes. There were also multiple images of what's believed to be a twin-seater J-20 stealth fighter. Military analysts say the new fighter jet model can also work alongside drones during combat situations. Overseas, Russia may have started a new phase of their war with Ukraine by using suicide drones to attack major cities. The White House is condemning the latest attacks on Ukraine by Russia, with Kyiv saying at least 28 drones dive-bombed the capital. Nazvi Karim reports.
The sound of gunfire could be heard across the Ukrainian capital as the city defended itself against kamikaze drones sent from Russia. They are suspected to be Shahed 136 drones from Iran, but Moscow and Tehran deny any transfer of such weapons. Ukraine says this residential building was destroyed by one of the drones, with rescuers pulling out 3 bodies from the rubble. The drone attacks are the latest strategy employed by Russia in its attempts to regain the upper hand in the war. This after Ukraine made significant gains over the past month in recapturing territory from Russia in the east and south, and also revenge for an explosion on October 8 that damaged the Kerch Bridge linking Russia to the Crimean Peninsula, with the Kremlin blaming Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said more than 25 areas of the country were on Monday targeted by Russia. He repeated his call for countries to help provide more air defense systems to neutralize the drone strikes. The United States has condemned Russia's use of drones on civilian targets, though Moscow says it is only targeting strategic infrastructure and military facilities.
There is extensive proof of their use by Russia against both military and civilian targets there. You've all have seen as well the reports this morning of what appear to be an Iranian drone striking downtown Kiev, yet Iran continues to lie about this.
Meanwhile, Russia and Ukraine completed a prisoner swap, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. The 110 Russians freed included 72 seamen from commercial vessels held since February, while 108 Ukrainian female prisoners of war were handed over to Kyiv. Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
Australia has reversed a 2018 decision by the government of former Prime Minister Scott Morrison to recognize West Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Australia's Foreign Minister Penny Wong said the ruling Labour Party has agreed to again recognize Tel Aviv as the Israeli capital.
In relation to Jerusalem, today the government has reaffirmed Australia's previous and long-standing position that Jerusalem is a final status issue. And a final status issue that should be resolved as part of any peace negotiations between Israel and the Palestinian peoples.
Previous Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison's move to recognize West Jerusalem as Israel's capital came after former U.S. President Donald Trump did so in 2017, sparking a sharp rebuke from Palestinians who saw it as hindering their chance for statehood. And in an age when smartphone cameras are everywhere, some Americans are redeveloping a love for film. NBC News has the story.
It loads in a jiffy and you're ready to shoot.
Fading for years, this relic of a bygone era is forging an unlikely comeback. Driven largely by millennials and Gen Z on platforms like TikTok and Instagram, all of a sudden old cameras are back with a rallying cry and a hashtag. Film is not dead.
But there's only one true way to do this story justice. We are going to shoot the entire thing on film.
Here at NBC News, it's been more than 44 years since we measured our footage in actual feet.
This is NBC Nightly News.
But now, in our hyper-connected world, many like Jason Cumberfeld, who runs the YouTube channel Grainy Days, are longing for an analog past.
It's probably one of the best moments you can have as a human being.
We headed out to shoot a few rolls on the streets of LA.
You see the image right there before you, beautiful lighting, beautiful angle. The rest is just kind of up to Kodak Gold.
When you hear that click, what does that click sound like to you?
It sounds like old mechanical perfection.
At
Total Cameras in Long Beach owner Eric Vichwar says film sales have recently tripled, with demand for vintage cameras skyrocketing during the pandemic.
How fast are you selling these?
You know, these things are not staying on the shelf. The price right now is at $299, but I would say 3 years ago we were selling them at $160.
For some, it's the element of surprise.
I forget about the role and then I go get it developed, and then I'm like, oh wait, that was fun. I totally forgot that even happened.
For others, it's a chance to slow down.
It is always magical. It never stops being exciting.
At the School of Light, Andrew Hall teaches the art of the darkroom to students of all generations.
I think what's drawing people back to film is they're finding that they really get a lot of satisfaction in taking that journey.
Byron Lewis is just 6 years old, but can already describe it perfectly.
Looks like magic.
It looks like magic?
And today, so many rediscovering that magic of stopping time with a little mechanical box. Gotti Schwartz, NBC News, Los Angeles.
That's the news. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.